Hi, and welcome back to English Lessons with Stephanie. This is Writing and Vocabulary Lesson 11. Here's the vocabulary set from this lesson. We have 19 words and phrases and 3 phrasal verbs. Our first phrase is a waste of time. This is a noun phrase that means time spent doing something unuseful or unimportant. Not useful or not important. Notice that a waste of time is a countable noun. We always say a waste of time. We never just say, this is waste of time. The verb here is waste, which is a transitive verb. It always is followed by an object. We can also get 2 adjective forms, wasteful or wasted. Wasteful is the cause of something being wasted, and wasted is the effect. In this other column, you can see other uses of the word waste. We often say something is a waste of space. That means it's using up space. That could mean it's too large or not being used enough. We also say a waste of energy or effort. That's another way of saying something is a waste of time. What a waste is an expression that could be used with time or money or effort. In the reading, we said, while some students enjoyed making small talk, some felt it was a waste of time. Our second example says, are video games a waste of time? Notice here that even though video games is a plural noun, we still say a waste of time. You could also say, are video games wastes of time? Our last example just shows waste as a transitive verb. I wasted 2 hours waiting for my friend, and she never showed up. Next, we have the adjective pointless. Pointless means without a purpose, because point, the countable noun, means a purpose or a goal. In the reading, we said, small talk is pointless, they would complain. That means some students thought there was no purpose to small talk. In our second example, we see point used as a countable noun. The point of this lesson is to teach vocabulary and writing skills. That means the purpose of this lesson. In our third example, we see point used as a noun again. She didn't waste any time with small talk and got right to the point of the meeting. She was quitting. This is an example of our other column, to get to the point. Getting to the point means getting to the purpose or most important part. Next, we have the phrase, strike up a conversation. Strike up a conversation means to start talking with someone. Conversation means communication between people. It could be talking, but it could also be text or email. The verb in this phrase is strike. This is an irregular verb, and the past tense and past participles are both struck. In the reading, we said, moreover, they told me it was extremely uncommon to strike up a conversation with a complete stranger. Our second example is, I'd like to strike up a conversation with that guy, but I don't know what to say. And the third example, we struck up a conversation and found out that we both went to the same university 5 years ago. So strike up a conversation means the exact same thing as start a conversation with someone or start talking. Next, we have the verb avoid. Avoid is a transitive verb that means try to not go near or close to something. The example from the reading said, while it's true that polite small talk usually avoids controversial topics like politics and religion, good small talk can be a pleasant way to pass time. So avoiding here, controversial topics means trying not to go near these topics, trying not to talk about politics, trying not to talk about religion. Avoiding can also be a physical thing. Like if you're riding a bike, you could try to avoid hitting something. Or you could say you're trying to avoid the sun by staying out of the sun. In our second example, I try to avoid milk because it makes my stomach upset. In our third example, we see an adjective form, unavoidable. So avoidable means you can avoid something. You can go around it or stay away from it. If something is unavoidable, that means you cannot avoid it. You will definitely come into contact with it. You will definitely see it or hit it or have to be near it. So in our last example, math class is unavoidable. You have to pass math in order to graduate from the school. That means you cannot not take math. You must take math. It is unavoidable. Next, we have the adjective controversial. Controversial means causing argument or disagreement. The reading's example was, while it's true that polite small talk usually avoids controversial topics like politics and religion, good small talk can be a pleasant way to pass time. So yes, politics and religion. Because many people disagree about politics and religion, we would call these controversial topics. In our second example, the new law is very controversial. And our third example shows the noun form. The controversy over outdoor dining continued well into the pandemic. Notice that when we use the noun form, we say controversy. We make the S sound. However, in the adjective form, the suffix sil makes the shul sound, so it's controversial. Our next phrase is dead end. Dead end is a noun phrase that means a place where there is no way to go anywhere else. You often see these signs when you're driving. You come to a road that is a dead end. That means you cannot go through this road. You will have to turn around and go back the way you came from. In the reading, we said, in fact, talking about the weather often leads to a dead end very quickly. That means when you're talking about the weather, sometimes you can't talk about anything else, and your conversation just stops. In our next example, we see dead end used as a verb. The project will dead end once it runs out of money. And notice that there is a hyphen in the verb form. In the last example, it says, my English skills reached a dead end when I stopped taking classes. That means you didn't make any more progress. Your skills just stopped going anywhere. In the other column, we see 3 common verbs we often use with dead end. Come to a dead end, meet a dead end, and reach a dead end. Next, we have the verb remark. Remark means to comment or say something. And just like these 2 verbs, comment and say, these can be intransitive or transitive verbs. You can remark, period, or you can remark something. In the reading, the example was, we start or continue conversations by remarking on things. Like, those are cool sneakers. Remark can also be used as a noun, like in our second example. The politician's remarks about guns were very controversial. That means the politician's comments, what he or she said. In our third example, we see remark in the past tense. She remarked that she had never heard of that movie. And you could easily replace the word remark with said or commented. It would have the same meaning. Remarkable is often seen as an adjective. As an adjective, remarkable means something is really amazing or good. And as an adverb, remarkably just means very. For example, you could say he is remarkably smart. Next, we have the verb agree. And in this chart, I also wrote the verb disagree, which is the opposite. Now, agree means to have the same opinion or thought as someone else. So disagree means you don't have the same opinion or thought. Both of these words have complete word families. Like in the reading, we said, we start conversations by voicing an opinion and inviting others to agree or disagree. In the next example, we see the noun form. My brother and I had a disagreement about or over which team would win. Here I put both prepositions about and over because both of these could go after the word disagreement. And in the final example, we have agree used in the past tense. I agreed to help my friend study for her test. In the other column and in this sentence, you can see that agree, the verb, is followed by to plus another verb, like agree to help someone. We also say in agreement as an adjective phrase. We are in agreement about something. Our next word is innocuous. Innocuous means harmless, innocent, not controversial. The example from the reading was, we start or continue conversations by asking an innocuous question, like how old is your son? This question is harmless. That means it's not controversial, it's not too personal, it's not offensive, no one's going to get upset about this question. The second example was, my father made some innocuous jokes about me at my wedding. That means these jokes were not mean. They were funny. Everyone thought they were okay. And the last example, don't worry about these innocuous weeds. They won't hurt anything. Weeds are unwanted plants. And some weeds are aggressive and dangerous. They can hurt other plants. But some weeds are innocuous. They don't really do anything. Next, we have the verb initiate. Initiate means start. And just like start, initiate can be transitive or intransitive. In the reading, we said, when initiating a conversation, starting with small talk also allows us to size someone up. The second example shows initiate as an adverb. The beginning of this course can be difficult. Initially, many students want to give up and try something easier. Initially basically means in the beginning. In our third example, we see initial, the adjective. I had to redo my initial plan when I realized I didn't have enough time. And initial here basically means first, the first plan that you made. Next, we have the verb nod. Nod means to move your head up and down to show agreement or understanding. This is a very common gesture all over the world. The example in the reading was, do they nod politely, then look away? The second example is, when I asked if they understood, everyone nodded. Or, I waved at him and he gave me a quick nod. That's the countable noun. In the other column, I wrote nod one's head. So you can say that a person nodded their head or just that they nodded. You don't really need to say the head because the head is the only part of the body that we can nod. There's also a phrasal verb, nod off, that means to fall asleep. And finally, the opposite of nodding is to shake your head. But when you use the verb shake, you do have to say shake your head. You can't just say she shook. Next, we have another bodily movement, the shrug. Shrug means moving your shoulders up and down to show you don't care or you don't know. Like in the reading, we said, do they simply shrug and agree? Right, so these are our shoulders, and when we shrug, we do this. Our second example says, when I asked what time we should leave, she shrugged. And he gave me a shrug when I asked his opinion. Body language means the position and movements of one's body. Much of what we communicate comes from body language. That, while silent, is more easily observed when talking. So our two previous words, nodding and shrugging, those are examples of body language. But body language doesn't just have to be a movement. It could be the way you hold your body or the way you're sitting or the fact that you're not moving. That's also a type of body language. In our second example, I could tell from her body language that she was lying. And in our third example, his body language shows how confident he is. Prolong is a transitive verb that means to make something longer in time. Right? So this is important because if you make something longer physically, so for example, in the reading, do they prolong the conversation by asking questions? So conversation is something that lasts a certain amount of time. If you prolong it, that means you make it last longer. Our second example says, I don't want to prolong this problem. Let's solve it today. So a problem is also something that can last a certain amount of time. And finally, their prolonged disagreement ruined the party. So in this example, a disagreement was made longer. We cannot use the word prolong with something physical, like a scarf. If you're making a scarf and you want to make it longer, you do not use the verb prolong. Next, we have the phrase to make eye contact. Making eye contact is another type of body language. It means you're looking someone else in the eyes. In the reading, we asked, do they smile and make eye contact? In the United States, making eye contact when you're talking to someone is important. It shows that you're listening to what they're saying. In our second example, it's important to make eye contact when you shake someone's hand. And our third example, she made eye contact with everyone in the audience. Because remember that make is an irregular verb, so the past tense is made. Next, we have the verb observe. Observe means to watch. In the reading, we said, much of what we communicate comes from body language that, while silent, is more easily observed when talking. The second example says, the teacher observed her students while they wrote. And the third example shows observant, the adjective. He's very observant. He notices many details that others miss. That means this is a person who sees a lot of things. The noun forms we see are observation and observatory. An observatory is a place where we can look at the sky. Next, we have the adjective brief. Brief means quick, in time. We have to use brief to describe things that happen in time and not things that move. For example, a car could be quick, but we wouldn't say a car is brief. Sometimes small talk is just a brief exchange with a stranger that doesn't go anywhere, but sometimes we go deeper. So exchange here means conversation. So brief here is used to describe how long a conversation lasts. In our second example, we use the adverb briefly. I don't know her well. We only met briefly. Our third example shows brief as a verb. It means to tell someone something quickly, to give a summary or a main idea. Do you have a minute to brief me on what happened during yesterday's meeting? So that means tell me quickly. The noun form is briefing, and a briefing is a quick summary. Next, we have the verb reveal. Reveal is a transitive verb that means to show or expose something. In the reading, we said, once we feel comfortable, we reveal personal information about ourselves without being asked. That means we are telling personal information here. The second example says, don't reveal your password to anyone, right? Don't tell your password to anyone. The third example shows revealing as an adjective. It's not appropriate to wear revealing clothes to a funeral. So here, revealing clothes are clothes that show too much of you. In the other column, I wrote, reveal a secret. That's a common phrase. That's when you tell someone else a secret. And we also have a noun form in the first column, which is countable, a reveal. Now let's talk about our phrasal verbs. Our first phrasal verb was size up. Size up means to measure, to assess, or to try to find more information about something. The example in the reading was, when initiating a conversation, starting with small talk also allows us to size someone up. That means we're talking with someone and we are looking at them to try to find out more information about them. We're trying to see what kind of person this is. In our second example, the lion sized up the giraffe before attacking. That means the lion is looking at the giraffe and asking itself, is this giraffe going to be easy to catch? Is it too big? That means it's trying to assess how the giraffe is. And in the last example, I chatted with my brother's new girlfriend to size her up. And again, you're trying to just see if this is a good person, if you're going to like her or not. In the other column, I wrote go one size larger because size up also is used when you need something a little bit larger. For example, if you put on a pair of shoes and the shoes are too small, you need to size up. That means to get a pair of shoes that is a little bit larger. Next, we have the phrasal verb start out. And start out means to start from the beginning. Begin from the beginning, the first part. In the reading, we said, just like many conversations, most relationships start out small. That means most relationships in the beginning are small. Our second example, when I wanted to learn the piano, I started out by taking lessons. So starting here is starting in the very beginning. Or at school, we started out every morning with attendance. That means started in the beginning of every day. Often, this has the same meaning as just start. So in all these examples, we could just remove the preposition out and the sentences would still be good and common. We can say, most relationships start small. I started by taking lessons. We started every morning with attendance. It really has the same meaning. In the other column, I wrote start off, which has the same meaning as start out. And our last phrasal verb is try out. Try out is a separable transitive verb that means to give something a chance. In the reading, we said, so try out some small talk. So trying out some small talk also basically means try some small talk, right? Do it and see if you like it, see if it works. Similarly, in the second example, I didn't think I would like this class, but I tried it out and loved the teacher. You could also say I tried it and loved it. And in our last example, tryouts for the football team start Monday. This is the countable noun form. If you're trying out for the football team, that means you're trying to join the team. They're seeing if you are good enough to join the team. In the other column, I wrote a slang phrase that has a similar meaning, which is test drive. Test drive is most often used with cars. Before you buy a car, you'll go to the dealer and you'll drive the car and see if you like it before you buy it. So trying out has a similar meaning. It means trying something for a short amount of time, giving it a chance before you decide to stay with it for a long time. So that's our vocabulary for today. To really use this vocabulary properly, you should write with it. Write a sentence using each new word. Summarize the week's reading in 1 or 2 sentences. And then you can answer these 2 questions with long paragraphs. When do you pay attention to a person's body language and why? And when it's up to you to strike up a conversation, how do you do it? What are your favorite things to talk about? So great work. I know this lesson was a little long, but we have a lot of vocabulary to learn. If you're enjoying these free lessons, please remember to like, comment, ask questions, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.